think it's an amazing opportunity for you all to be here and ask Alayna questions and her life after schooling. A different kind of schooling, I would say. So thanks for being here, Alayna.
And 15 years ago, I was in your shoes, and I had certain leaders in my life that I felt had a huge impact in helping me get to where I am today. And particularly, I had female leaders in my life that really had a huge impact on me. And that went from my mom, my older sister, my teammates, my running coach in high school, and then other, captains on my team, or other women I could look up to or look aside to if they were even the same age as me. But I just felt very fortunate enough to have those role models in my life, and also those role models who were not afraid to talk about some of the maybe uncomfortable things. So that meant, talking about pressure and emotions and periods and things that I feel like a lot of high school female athletes have to deal with, but there aren't always easy resources for us to turn to at that age, or really at any age in life. And so I'm just really excited to kind of talk to you all today about a lot of those things. And before we dive into it all, I will share a little bit about myself for any of you who don't know. I grew up just a few miles from Gear West here, and I bought my first pair of skis at Gear West. And so this is just a really special place for me, and I feel grateful to have this partnership with Gear West. And it's really a full circle moment for me to be able to contribute back to the community that I feel like helped me get to where I am today. But having grown up not far from here, I went to Wayzata High School. I grew up cross-country skiing with my family. My older sister started running in middle school, and so of course, I always looked up to her, and so I had to join the cross-country running team also, and ski with her, and kind of just chase after her. And so through that experience, I had some really great opportunities as a high school runner and skier. I balanced both of those all 4 years, and I really loved being able to go back and forth from season to season, of cross-country running to cross-country skiing to track and field, and had some really amazing moments with my teammates, and went on then to ski for the University of Vermont. And I'm going to talk about college a little bit later, but that was a huge kind of moment in my whole ski career, and that is a huge impact on then having the opportunity after college to ski professionally. Over the years, I've kind of taken these incremental steps. I've never really had these moments where I make this drastic jump in my career, but I've kind of been patient and diligent and put in the work consistently, day in and day out, and I've had these steps over time that have got me to the point where I've been able to then represent the Team USA at a World Championship event. And this year is the Winter Olympics. And I've got goals to make that Olympic team and represent the Team USA at the highest level possible. And that's really scary to say to a room full of people. But that's my goal, and I feel like one thing that I've been working on is sharing my goals with others, because I know others want to be part of the process and others care, and it feels like that support from others can help me get to those goals as well. So that's my scary goal that I'm sharing with you. Your person to make a goal or a dream happen, and that is, it takes your mind, it takes your body, and it takes your heart. And you can maybe accomplish some things with one or two of these, but if you want to chase a really big, scary goal, it's going to take all three. And you really need to have them come aligned in order to make that happen. Breakthrough result, and all of a sudden, your coach or other parents are talking about it, and they're saying like, wow, so-and-so, looked great in that race. I wonder if she can go and do that next time. And those seem like really little things, but they add up to be a lot of pressure from those external factors. And then you think of those internal factors too, right? Like maybe you do achieve something great, and then you're like, wait, can I do better than that? Was that everything? Is that it? Like where do I go from here? Or maybe you didn't do as well as you wanted to, and you're feeling the pressure, like, what have I done? What did I do wrong? You know, how can I bounce back from that? Female athletes, we have this other really fun thing that we get to deal with, and that's called emotions. And around the age of, 14, 15, 16 years old, those emotions can become really heightened because of the puberty and the development that we're going through as a young female. And we don't always get to control those emotions. Sometimes our hormones take over and they control your emotions, so that when, suddenly someone accidentally like elbowed you in a cross-country running race, it was an accident, but that's like the end of the world and it's devastating and you just want to cry about it, right? And sometimes then you just outkicked someone in a race and you're like, that was amazing, and you're on a high and you're just like the happiest person you can be. Or maybe it's not athletically related at all and just something happened in school or at home. But these emotions are constantly with us, and they're gonna have their own roller coasters that are gonna ebb and flow. And again, we can't necessarily control them because our body's on a different clock, on a different cycle, that we don't necessarily get to say when some of those emotions come out and some of them don't. And some of the things that I've learned to deal with some of those things are working with a sports psychologist. Not because I necessarily have a problem that I need to fix, but because there's a lot going on in my head. And I want to make sure that I have that clear and straightforward when it comes time to perform. And sometimes that means I can't figure that all out on my own. And it also means I can't necessarily put all of that weight on, my mom or my sister or my teammate, because that's a lot for them to take on too. And so working with a sports psych, I have found, is an incredible way to kind of help me process those emotions, those pressures that I'm constantly feeling. And it helps me kind of rephrase or reframe what I'm dealing with on a day-to-day. One example that I have is a few years ago, I was really not having a great season. I wasn't in a great place personally, and just had some things going on with the people around me that made me not the happiest version of myself. And that meant it was really hard for me to show up on the start line, ready to give everything I had, because there wasn't much to give. And so I was working with my sports psych to kind of figure out what I could do. And, in this season also, we had the Minneapolis World Cup. Was anyone at the Minneapolis World Cup? Yeah? So that was an amazing moment. And I almost did not qualify to race there, which was kind of a shocker for me because of the history of performance I had had leading up to that. I was the actual first alternate to race in the 10K skate, and someone else declined it, and that's why I got to race. And that was a ton of pressure for me going into that qualification period to try to qualify for the Minneapolis World Cup, because I felt like I had to. It was just what was expected of me. It was expected of me from myself, from my coaches, from my parents, from my community. People just assumed I was going to be racing at the Minneapolis World Cup. And I felt like I had to do it. And I was not having a great season. I wasn't racing in my best ability. I just wasn't able to. And my sports psych shared with me something. Try telling yourself, I don't have to, but I get to. I get to try to qualify. I get to try to win this race. I get to set this goal. Or I want to set this goal. I want to be racing at the Minneapolis World Cup. I want to qualify. I want to race in front of my home crowd and my home community. And so I want to put everything I can into these races that are going to get me there. But if it doesn't happen, that's okay too. Everything I could to try to make that team. And like I said, I was the first alternate. And so I was pretty devastated. I thought I had done everything I could to get there. And yet it still wasn't quite enough. Fortunately for me, someone did decline that start. And as the first alternate, I did get to come and race in that 10K at the Minneapolis World Cup. And that meant the world to me. And I will talk about again later, but had a huge impact on kind of this shift in mindset and in performance for me. Shifting myself from being Alayna the athlete to Alayna the human allows me to show up on that start line being 100% ready to go, because I've had this other part of my life where I get to be Alayna the human, and then I get to kind of like shift gears, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to lock it in, and here I am, Alayna the skier, ready to shift and talk about, the body. So, the body is our temple. Similar to our emotions that have these fluctuations, especially during a time of development as young female athletes. Our bodies are going to be changing over the course of our lives. Whether that's from a day-to-day basis or a month-to-month, season-to-season, or year-to-year, your bodies are going to face these changes. And what I have found is it's best to embrace those changes and work with those changes. Making sure your body is well prepared for the energy output that you're expecting it to give, right? If any of you have heard of what Red S is, maybe a little bit in health class, or maybe your coaches have talked about it, but it is, it's been known for a long time, but what Red S is that it's basically this imbalance in your body. So when your body isn't getting enough fuel in terms of food or energy to keep up with what you're doing as an athlete or just in life. Like when you're going to class and you're studying for tests, you need fuel to do that. What happens with your body when you have Red S is that your body's constantly just trying to keep up, and so it starts to figure out ways to cut corners and figure out like, well, okay, maybe I don't need to put as much energy into this, because what I do need is I need to make sure I have a functioning heart and brain and lungs and liver and kidney, and so therefore less is going to go to my bones, because maybe that's not as necessary. So we start to see a decrease in bone density, which can lead to injuries like a stress reaction or a stress fracture. It also means that we see a change in our hormones, and so not as much energy is going into the menstrual cycle, and maybe we lose our period. Maybe our metabolism starts to slow down because it's saying, I only get, X amount of calories a day, and I need to give this much in energy. I need to slow down my metabolism so that I can keep up with the energy output. It can affect your menstrual cycle, which can therefore affect your fertility as a female, which sounds so far away and not like a problem at all for you to deal with when you're 16 years old, but it is a problem that can come up, and it can change the outcourse of the rest of your life if you're not able to have this healthy, prosperous life that you're hoping for. So Red S is not just about not eating enough. It's really about that mismatch in energy levels of what are you giving your body and what are you expecting it to give you in return. Like I said, in high school, middle school, high school, our bodies are growing. They're continuing to develop, okay? And so your bodies need that extra energy in order to keep up with all of that development. And it's not just for running or skiing. It's for, again, just getting through life. You need that energy. It can creep in very slowly. It's not just all of a sudden, someone is out of energy and, you woke up the next day and you can't get out of bed. I mean, that happens to me sometimes after a hard race. But this is something where it's day in and day out. It slowly starts to creep in. It's not always obvious at first. And so that's why it sometimes takes someone else to help you realize, like, hey, maybe we should talk about this. Like, where are your energy levels and how can we get them back up to where they were before? Sometimes I wake up the next day after a race and I'm really tired and I can't get out of bed, right? And that's fatigue. But when you have fatigue like that day in and day out, that's what's something where it's no longer just being tired after a race, but it's tired after a rest day. Or maybe you're having mood swings, or you're super irritable. And it's something that it's you don't realize that you're upset about something until you really snap at someone who didn't really do anything to harm you, but maybe they just annoyed you for a second and you become that irritable because you don't have the energy to deal with it. The biggest sign for red S for young women is missing a period. And it's so, so important for young women to know that getting a period is so, so important and healthy and absolutely a part of who we are as women and how we can contribute to life and also our own life. And also a period can show strength. I know some people have different symptoms with periods. I feel really sluggish. But then when I get to the day of my period, then I feel like I'm invincible. I feel like I'm Superwoman. And so it's almost like this superpower that we get to have. We have to deal with those negative few days beforehand, but then it's like a superpower that we get to open up to and take us to the next, this cycle of thinking, I need to work harder, do more, eat more healthy in order to be faster. And I didn't even realize what I was doing to myself until it was probably 6 months in, and I started feeling incredibly irritable towards the people around me. Someone would chew with their mouth open and I would lose it on them. It's not super cute, but it's also not worth losing it on them, right? And so all of these things started to kind of creep in as why am I making such a big deal about this? This isn't a big deal. And that also happened to be when the winter came around, and we did have some races that I got to go compete in over in Europe, and they went horribly. I had no energy to deal with the travel or the stress of competing or the racing because I was just super low energy. And it wasn't because I decided I'm going to lose weight, right? It was just this occurrence that happened over time because I thought I was going to be healthy. But really, what being healthy means is making sure that we have all of the love that our body can have, right? So that means eating your fruits and vegetables. It also means eating your carbohydrates and your proteins and your fats and your ice cream and your brownies and your cookies. And you get the smoothies and the minerals and the vitamins that you need. You need this well-balanced diet in order to accomplish those goals, in order to make sure that your body is ready to perform. Okay? So making sure that you have heart behind the goals and the dreams that you're chasing. What's really important for me, I felt like that shift that I felt at Minneapolis, right? I made it to the Minneapolis World Cup. I had accomplished that goal. I got to be there. I got to race in front of those 30,000 people that showed up to cheer for us that weekend. And I got to do it in front of my family and my friends and my middle school and high school coaches who taught me how to ski, and my teammates. These are my family members. This is a high school teammate, these two. These two are friends who I grew up skiing with. This is my brother. And so I got to be able to be in front of all of those people and do it in front of everyone who had kind of got me to that place. And what I realized is that I had found my why, right? Why am I doing this? Why am I ski racing? Why am I training for hours and hours a day? Why am I going through the pain of intervals or working in a gym to become stronger? It's because I love to ski race, and I love to do it with the community that shares that same passion with me. We're in it together, and we're in it as a community, and we love it together. And being able to be part of that with this community is my why, and why I love to be here in Minneapolis. And it's why I am continuing to chase my goals of trying to qualify for an Olympic team. Started back in high school when I was part of a team that had never qualified for the state meet. Or sorry, it hadn't qualified in about 10 years. The running team hadn't. And as a freshman in high school, that year, our team came together and we worked together and we qualified for the state meet for the first time in 10 years. And over those 4 years that I had in high school, we went from a team of misfits who couldn't qualify for the state meet into a team that won Nike Cross Nationals by my senior year. That didn't happen overnight. That happened over 4 years. That happened as a team. That happened with belief in each other, in ourselves, and in our support system. I felt believed in by my coaches, by my parents, by my friends and my teammates. And that helped me believe in myself, and it helped me feel motivated and inspired to continue to challenge myself and reach those goals. When it comes to taking that next step in school or education, there are so many options out there. Some of them are really close to home, some of them are really far away. I ended up choosing one that was really far away in Vermont, and that was really scary for me. And I wasn't sure if I was actually going to do that. It was like down to the wire. I needed to make a decision in 24 hours, and I was still split 50-50. Do I stay home, or do I stay near home, or do I go out east? And I finally decided this is the one chance that I feel like I have to try something completely new. And I feel like I've been following my sister in the last 4 years. And so maybe I should try something new and go out east. And worst comes to worst, I can always transfer back to a school closer to home, or I can make a change. But I want to give myself that opportunity to at least try it for a year. And so that's what helped me make the decision to go to the University of Vermont. But there are so many options out there. There are D1, D2, D3 schools. There are schools with clubs, right? But what's really important is that you focus on, okay, is there a group of people there that can be my support system? And I can be their support system too. Can we work together as teammates? Because those teammates are gonna go with you like forever, right? Those are relationships that are going to be part of you forever and ever. And those teammates and those relationships, those people in your life are what help you love the sport and want to show up and want to continue to chase your passion for the sport. And I encourage you all to continue to chase your passion for the sport, because you never know where you could go from skiing the Barnaburkey at the age of 3 years old to racing at a world championship event at the age of 28. And I never ever thought as a 3-year-old, as a 10-year-old, as a 16-year-old that I was going to make it to the world championship event. But I did, from the community around me. They helped me get there. My community of teammates, of parents, of family, of friends, of coaches. This entire community has helped me reach some amazing goals, and I feel incredibly empowered to chase my goal for the Winter Olympics this year. And I encourage you all to also set a really scary goal. And maybe you don't have to share it with anyone yet, you could just write it down. But I do encourage you to share it with someone, because sharing it with someone helps you believe in it yourself, that it can happen. And then that support system can help you get there too. So I hope you all continue to love skiing, continue to nourish yourselves as female athletes, continue to chase your passion as skiers, and you never know where you're going to end up. And that's all I have for today.